It's my pleasure now to introduce you to Joe Dale, who is certainly no stranger to the University of Southampton, and no stranger in fact to this room and presenting in this room, usually under the guise of the ICT and Languages Conference, which is an annual conference for school teachers, which is held just usually a couple of weeks after this one, and this year it is the 8th and 9th of February. And we're delighted that Joe has been able to join us this year for the e-learning symposium, just to give you a flavour of what's happening in schools and how school teachers, both at primary and secondary and tertiary level, are using ICT in languages classrooms and in language lessons. I'll hand over to Joe just now. I know he's got a packed session for you, so if we do run out of time at the end for questions, Joe is around for the rest of the day to take any questions. Okay, over to you, Joe.
Great, thanks, Lena. Can everyone hear me okay? Is that all right? Yeah? Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank Southampton University and LLAS for inviting me along today. I am now an independent languages consultant as of 2009, but for 13 years I taught as a French teacher, teaching 3 years at secondary level and then 10 years at middle school level on the Isle of Wight. So I've just popped over from the Isle of Wight this morning. So not too far at all, which is good. And what I'm going to be talking about today is lots and lots of ways that schools are using technology to enhance language learning. This is my blog here. I haven't had time to update it a lot recently. The last post was May of last year, which is a bit embarrassing, never mind. But I wrote a great deal when I was in the classroom from 2006 to 2009. It's all there. And here's my email address here, joe@talk21.com. So if there's anything that you want to ask me about, if you don't want to ask me today in at the event, then feel free to send me an email afterwards. So we've got about 40 slides, 3 videos to do in 45 minutes, so we'll see how we get on. Okay, so let's go for it. Now, the reason I put this image up, first of all, is this image is supposed to represent the MFL Twitterati. Anyone heard of the MFL Twitterati in the room? A couple of you, fantastic. I can see Ferdinando is over there, that's fantastic. First time we've ever met face to face. We've been connected with each other for quite a long time now, a year, 2 years. So it's a bit of an epiphany moment. We're in the same room together, which is absolutely fantastic. So the MFL Twitterati is, if you don't know, is a community of language teachers, language professionals, language consultants, language organisations from the UK who like to share good practice on the use of technology as well as other topics to do with language learning. And the community has been going since probably about 2008 or so, off the back of 3 events I organised on the Isle of Wight called the Isle of Wight Conference, which is a part of my Specialist Schools and Academies Trust work. And about 2008, that's when Twitter was really kicking in, as it were, in relation to language teachers, particularly at secondary level. We're using it a lot at the time. So 2007 was when, end of 2006 Twitter started. 2007 there were some early adopters. 2008 was when it really started growing. And then, so the community, the MFL Twitterati, started from that point. If you do a search for MFL Twitterati, you'll find that hashtag is being used all over the world by language teachers, and that's been the case for a few years now. And I'll tell you more about how to subscribe to the list and how to get involved in this later on. Okay, so for the keynote at the first ICT Languages Conference that Zena's just mentioned, I sent a message out to the Twitterati asking them, what does the MFL Twitterati mean to you? And interestingly enough, the largest word that came back was the word support. So this is a Wordle, so I took all the tweets that people sent me, put it into the Wordle, and those people that know how Wordle works, that the more the word is used, the more significant it is. So the word support is clearly what matters most to the language teachers who are part of this community, which I think is a really interesting human aspect of this. It's not all about sort of geeky teachers talking about geeky ideas. I think that's fantastic. And here, this is just go back. Oh yeah, sorry. This is a video which I'm just going to show you very, very quickly now, which is a compilation of all the tweets that were done at the time. This was 3 years old now. This was very significant about how people felt about the Twitterati at the time, and I think is certainly the case still now. So you can get a flavour of how much value people have on this and how this impacts on the teaching and learning in the classroom, which I'll talk about more in a moment. So here we go.
Oh,
a staff room without cynics? The reason where I am today. Feel the love. MFL Twitterati is my lifeline. Okay, so that was the original question that I sent out. There we are. Okay, so as you can see there, people feel very, very strongly about Twitterati. I wanted to pick up the points, a staff room without cynics. So some people may feel that when they go into the staff room, my former head teacher used to say this idea about radiators and drains. So some people would be radiators, in other words, they'd be very positive, and some people would be drains, in other words, they'd poo-poo all the ideas that you might have and how enthusiastic you are. You know, MFL Twitterati is all about being positive and radiating good ideas and sharing them with other people within the community. Okay, so if you want to find out a little bit more about the background of the MFL Twitterati, this is a post that I wrote for the Network for Languages London blog in 2012 called Have You Heard of the MFL Twitterati? And that talks a little bit about the roots and the impact of the MFL Twitterati. And then this is a post by Jen Turner, who's the head of languages in a school in Suffolk, where she's taken screenshots of different tweets from the community, which just shows what a supportive, lovely community they are. And you'll notice that in lots of these slides I've put the links to where you can find the references, and on the penultimate slide I've done a QR code and the URL to where you can download the presentation as a PDF. Now in February of last year I wrote an article for The Guardian, for the Guardian Teacher Network, again sort of going over similar ground to the previous article I just mentioned, but with more emphasis on the impact of all this sharing as part of a community on the teaching and learning in the classroom. And I'm going to particularly highlight that now. So I was nominated for an Impact Award through NACE, the sort of National Organisation for Computing in the UK, and as you probably can't see there, but it says for actively building a global community of language teachers using blogging, podcasting, video conferencing and Twitter to enhance language learning. So that was really nice that it was nationally recognised, the work I've been trying to do in create this, not just a community in the UK, but actually connected with language teachers from all over the world, and it's proving very, very successful at the moment. Now, I also talked about the MFL Twitterati as part of a podcast for a Scottish podcast series called EduTalk by John Johnson and David Noble, who are two Scottish educators, and that's an hour-long recording. If you do a search for that, you can find the link very, very easily. So as part of the NACE Curriculum Support Service Impact Award, I needed to provide evidence of what was the impact of being part of this community on the classroom. So that's exactly what I did. I sent a tweet out there, did a bit of crowdsourcing, and I put all the tweets into Wordle, and you'll notice, apart from the word MFL Twitterati itself, that some of the most important features of the tweets that people were tweeting were the word students, which is obviously what this is all about. So one of the biggest impacts of being part of the community is on the students and on new ideas and new things, which is wonderful. Now I crystallised some of these ideas. I summarised some of these ideas into bullet points. I'm not going to obviously read all these out now because I haven't got time, but I just want to pinpoint one of them in particular. So the feelings from the people that took part in the Twitter survey they felt that they were delivering more engaging and effective lessons by trying out new strategies, which in turn are motivating their pupils, improving attainment, and encouraging them to produce more creative outcomes. So being part of the community is very much taking risks, experimenting with different ideas, finding it. We were talking earlier about finding a tool, thinking, oh, that looks good, trying it out, sharing the ideas, reviewing how it went in the classroom, feeding back to the community, and then everybody benefits as a result. And I think that's a really, really exciting thing to do, which is absolutely happening at secondary level at the moment for those people who are part of this. I mentioned already that the MFL Twitterati hashtag has gone global. It has been global for about 3 or 4 years now. These are 2 posts from language teachers from Canada and from the States who have talked about the impact of them being part of the MFL Twitterati community and how that's affected their practice. So again, you can have a look at that in your own time. For those people that are not into the idea of Twitter, I was checking the tweets this morning, and it was interesting that this is a conference all about e-learning, and yet there only seems to be about 5 people in the whole room who are tweeting at the moment, which I find somewhat surprising. But anyway, moving on. So for those people who are not into the idea of Twitter, this might be, or the idea of finding out what the MFL Twitterati are doing, this might be a good way of finding out some ideas and some links that people are tweeting about. So the MFL Times Daily is a newspaper. It's a free service by paper.li or Paperly, depending on how you want to pronounce it, which curates tweets from a certain Twitter account that people are following. Okay, so what I did was I set up the Twitter account called MFL Times, and I encouraged not only the MFL Twitterati to follow that account, but also anyone interested in languages from anywhere in the world. And now on a daily basis, a new edition of the MFL Times comes out, which has articles based on the links in people's tweets that are following this account. And everything should be about languages, because the people who are following the account are interested in languages. So if you want to have your Twitter fix, as it were, but you don't want to get onto Twitter, then you might want to subscribe to this. You can subscribe top right there. Get an email every day, every time a new edition comes out, and you'll be able to see, you'll be able to get a snapshot of what people are tweeting about. Okay, so in other words, the articles that are appearing are those which are tweeted the most. Okay. Something else that the MFL Twitterati has been doing in the last couple of years is having face-to-face meetups. So it's not all about the virtual. The virtual is important, but it's also important to meet up from time to time as well. So we've been doing these things called MFL Show and Tells, which is based on the Teach Meet model. And essentially the idea is it's a whole day event. There's been about 8 or so of them so far since we first started doing them. And people will come along. They tend to be free, particularly if we can get sponsorship. And people will give short presentations, somewhere between 5 minutes to 10 minutes, depending on how many people are there. A bit like an unconference as well. So it's a sort of it's a cross between an unconference and a Teach Meet. And some of them are live streamed. This one was live streamed in Nottingham in 2010. But the most recent ones, there was one in Manchester a couple of months ago, there was one in Coventry also a couple of months ago, and they're really fantastic ways of classroom teachers, be it secondary, primary, who want to share good practice. And there's always a hashtag for the event, and there were lots of people following virtually, not just in this country, but from around the world. So it's really, really exciting, I think. Okay, interesting that the Flash meeting tool was mentioned in the earlier keynote. MFL Flash meetings are video conferences that we've been doing since about 2009 or so. We've done about 20 or so far, and again we set up a wiki. We put down people put down their names, the organisation that they represent, their school or what have you, and then we have a set of agenda points, normally about 6 to 8, and it's a 2-hour meeting on a Monday night. We haven't done one for a while, because I tend to host them and I've just been too busy, but we've done about 20 or 22 so far, and as you know with Flash Meeting, you can watch the review of them just by doing a search for MFL Flash Meeting. You'll find the wiki, and then you just click on the links on the right hand side and you'll be able to find out all the things we've been talking about. This has been a very cathartic experience for people who have been involved, and it's another way, it's an extension of the MFL Twitterati community, being able to not exactly meet face to face, but you get this extra feeling or closeness, I suppose, proximity when you have the webcams and what have you. So if you're interested in replicating this, I would really encourage you to use video conferencing if you're not already, as a way of teachers connecting with each other. Something else which has proved very, very popular amongst the community is having a collaborative Dropbox. So this was originally the idea of Amanda Salt, who is the head of Spanish in Grosvenor Grammar School in Belfast, and she came up with the idea of having a collaborative Dropbox whereby people would be invited, share their email address, be part of the Dropbox, and it all went very well. In fact, it was so popular to start off with, it became full very, very quickly. And then she and other people set up individual Dropboxes for different languages, and those have also proved very popular. Unfortunately, some people don't realise that when they delete a file from their Dropbox, or their folder in their Dropbox, it deletes it from everybody else. So there's a couple of people, in particular Terry Dunn from the northeast of England, who, if let's say literally like 1,600 files, for example, were deleted by mistake yesterday, accidentally, and so she has to then reinstate all those. So I think well, she doesn't have to, she's decided to do that as well as other people, but she's the main person who does that. So I think it's really important from the point of view of learning how these things work, that if you delete it from your Dropbox, it affects everybody else. But a collaborative Dropbox has proved very, very useful as a way of sharing ideas, even though you're limited to 2 gigabytes with the initial setup, and so some people get worried when theirs gets filled up, they delete stuff and then they don't realise it deletes it from everybody else. But that's all it's another expression of how the community can collaborate with each other. Now, the MFL Twitterati Dropbox has proved so popular that other language teachers from around the world have wanted to join the Dropbox, but to make it manageable, and the reasons I've just explained, we've said that it's just for UK language teachers only, but we've encouraged other people to replicate the same model. And so Fiona Bowie from Australia has done exactly that. She's set up an Australian Dropbox for language teachers, which is fantastic. And in North America, in fact, there's 2 so far. There's one by a Spanish teacher called Khaled Bloodworth, which is a great name, I think. Anyway, Khaled Bloodworth, who has set up one for North American language teachers, and there's also one for LANChat, which is another hashtag community. They have chats on at 8 o'clock. Sorry, in the evening, should I say? Obviously, you've got time zones and everything, but in the evening on a Thursday night, which is normally about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, for me, which is why I don't take part, believe it or not, because you have to sleep and what have you. But yeah, so LANChat is another community you might want to follow if you're interested in this sort of thing. If you're interested in what secondary school teachers are doing with the use of not just technology but talking about language teaching in general. So there's a LANChat Dropbox, there's also this one that Caleb has set up as well. So it's fantastic that people are replicating the model and not just wanting to be part of ours. Now, I wrote an article for The Guardian in May called Are Language Teachers Leading the Way with Education Technology? And I would argue that there is no other community like the MFL Twitterati in the whole world. And so from that point of view, I would say that, and feel free to disagree with me about this, but I would suggest that as a community, as a cohesive community, we are leading the way in the whole world in relation to this. Now, I've spoken at conferences in Australia, in North America, and there are other language teachers who are really involved in this sort of thing, but there's no one big community. There's 1,000 members plus of the MFL Twitterati, so just UK language teachers. And there's no other community in the world who are doing what we're doing, which is obviously very, very exciting. So I wrote this article about that, and nobody disagreed, which was cool. There was this critique here by an American website about the article, but again, well, he just sort of is just praising what I said, but he didn't disagree, which was nice. But if you feel like disagreeing, go ahead on Twitter. You know what the hashtag is; it's just over there. So, if you're interested in joining or subscribing to the list which I put together on my account, just go to this URL here. So, just do a search for MFL Twitterers. You can't do it at the moment anyway on a mobile device, or not that I found. If you can do it, if you can prove me wrong, I'd be happy to be proved wrong. But you probably have to do it on a laptop or a Mac or a PC. And if you can subscribe to that list, you have to be on Twitter to do that. If you want to subscribe to that list. There's over 1,000 subscribers as well as the members, and then you can see what people are tweeting about. I'm more than happy to add you to the list as well, as long as you're a UK language teacher, either at primary, secondary or further education level. We have some people in the room who I've mentioned already who are on the list, and that's great. It's all about sharing and collaborating with each other. So if you want to get involved, that's one way of doing it. Okay. I'm going to talk more about pedagogy in particular and the effect of the Twitterati on the pedagogy. Now, this was an article here, ICT as a Catalyst of Change in Pedagogy, that was written by Laura Knight and Mark Steed from a school in Hertfordshire, Berkhamsted School, who particularly are talking about mobile devices. And they're talking about the idea that they feel that where we are now with mobile devices, with iPads in particular, because they're particularly focused on iPads, we're seeing a change in pedagogy. So again, if you want to have a look at that article, I'd really recommend that you do that. This is Laura at a conference 2 years ago, whereby she talked about how her using iPads in particular in the languages department was impacting on the learning of the children. So again, if you can have a look at that in your own time. Now, I was asked to take part in a webinar for EdTech Teacher, which is a US organisation. I was lucky enough to go to Boston in November to the iPad Summit USA, which is organised by EdTech Teacher, and they asked me to run a webinar, which I was going to do on the 21st, which was Monday, wasn't it? No, Tuesday of this week. And unfortunately, a fuse literally exploded underground outside our house, which meant that we had no electricity for 9 hours. So I couldn't actually do it, unfortunately. So you'll see, you may be able to see, anyway, it says postponed. So I wasn't actually able to take part, which is very, very annoying. But anyway, moving on. So as part of the webinar, I thought it would be a good idea to crowdsource the MFL Twitterati and ask them how they were using iPads in languages. And I used the tool Storify in order to collate all the tweets all together, and you can find the link here. So this is some of the cutting edge practice which is happening around, particularly around England at the moment, on the use of iPads. This one here particularly I draw attention to, which is a YouTube clip about 6 minutes long of good practice from Stephen Peirce Foundation School, where I did some iPad training last year, and they're doing some really interesting stuff. So again, if you want to see some real-life practice of what people are doing, that would be a good place to start. Something else that people have been doing a lot recently in relation to iPads in particular is reflecting on their use through blogging. These are 3 blogs which I wanted to highlight at the top there. The first one is by Amanda Salt, who I've mentioned already. So she's written, I think, 3 blog posts so far on the use of iPads in her classroom. She put a bid together, which she put in the MFL Twitterati Dropbox so people could have a look at it as well. She was successful in her bid. She was able to get 18 iPads just for languages, which is fantastic. And she's been doing great stuff with them, and she's been sharing her ideas through blogging, which is great. She's been blogging for quite a long time now, but the particular recent posts have been about iPads. Then we've got the LANChat Chronicles by a teacher from the northeast of England, Helena Butterfield, who's also has been lucky enough to have iPads recently and has been sharing good practice there. And then we have Rachel Smith on the right-hand side, who lives on the Isle of Man, who's been doing lots and lots of things to do with iPads. And again, she's reflecting on her use of iPads and sharing that with the community so that people can then see what she's doing, offer ideas, and learn, and so we all learn together. Now, if you're particularly interested in finding out about interesting language blogs from secondary school colleagues and primary school colleagues, then this list, which has been put together by Steve Smith, who's a former head of languages from Ripon Grammar School, he's put together this list of MFL blogs on his website, FrenchTeacher.net. Again, you've got the link here, and there are lots and lots of links to different language blogs there, particularly from the UK, but some from around the world as well. So I thought you'd find it useful for me to put the links at the bottom so you can check them out in your own time. Let's look at some more specific examples. For example, on the use of QR codes. Now, you'll notice here there's the image there. This is actually not from a language teacher. This is from in an English context by a former deputy head teacher, David Mitchell, who's involved in quad blogging. If nobody knows about that, I definitely encourage you to have a look at it online. Quad blogging. It's essentially the idea is you've got 4 schools together in a quad. Everybody is taking turns in having a blogging week. So in a period of a month, one school is blogging for that week, and then the other 3 schools who are part of the quad are leaving comments on that school's blog, which means that you have got a definite audience for your work, which then you have then a rota, and then after the month then you start again on the next round of blogging articles, which is a really nice, simple idea, completely free to do, and I know he's accepting new quads at the moment if you want to get involved. So going back to QR codes, he took the idea of getting the children to do some work in an exercise book. He then marked it for them. He then asked them to write up the best version, as it were, as a blog post, and then he took a QR code of that blog post and put it into the book. So you've got the advantage, you've got the assessment there, or the marking from the teacher. He could have done that as peer assessment, but he decided to do it that way. You've then got publishing to a real audience, and the fact that people from around the world can leave comments, and that's all linked via the QR code. So he talks about this idea of making his exercise books 4D. In other words, the extra dimension, the 4th dimension, is the dimension of going from the physical to the virtual, which I thought was a really nice idea. So if you want to make your exercise 4D, you might want to consider doing this. Now, if you're interested particularly about QR codes, quick response codes, Then I did a talk in Glasgow for the Scottish Learning Festival Teach Meet back in 2011, and that's a 7-minute presentation with audio included about different ideas of using QR codes. And then on the left-hand side here, this is Head of Languages Kelda Richards from the southwest of England in Isker College, and she is using QR codes with the augmented reality tool called Aurasma, which is available on iOS as well as on Android if you're interested in trying it out. Now, what it allows you to do is it allows you to have a video or an image pop up when you scan over, well, first of all the QR code and then point it at the image. So in other words, you can make your walls talk using this. And I've got a quick video here, which I'll play now, which shows you how to do it.
How we can make my wall talk. So the first thing I'm going to do is use a QR reader, which is going to use a quick response to open up the shared web link to Aurasma. Once Aurasma is loaded, it takes a few minutes, hopefully not a few minutes, for your order to be shared. And then it will open up the video. So that's what I make it out to show my people how to do it, and then here's some of the beginning class, which I've already shared to my iPod. And we have a survey that we did. So that we have the survey open up on a graph. And then we go people speaking coach on the day in the house.
Okay, so as a way of providing evidence of speaking work, Aurasma is fantastic. You could use that not just in languages but across the curriculum. You could have, well, obviously wall displays, any sort of wall display would be great. You could have a school prospectus whereby the prospective parents who come in could be scanning QR codes, pointing at images and seeing videos of good practice from around the school. So I think that's a really, really nice example of how you can make your walls talk. Here's another example of using QR codes. This is a friend of mine, Alex Blagona, who is the director of a language college in Ipswich, Northgate High School. And he was doing the perfect tense with his children, so he was getting them to sort of old school to use pen and paper to describe in their own words how to form the perfect tense with avoir and être. He then used the QR code to link to a YouTube clip from another languages department from somewhere else in the country, which gave another distance learning opportunity for the children to revise and to have a look at that to reinforce what they'd covered themselves by doing their own description of how to form the perfect tense. So we were talking about this one night on Twitter, and I said, that's a really nice idea, but have you thought about using screencasting to enhance this process using an app called Show Me? And he said, what do you mean? So I said, well, with Show Me, what you can do is on the iPad, you can create like a similar sort of interface to an interactive whiteboard. You can annotate on the screen, you can record the whole thing, including your voice, your annotations, you can change colour and all exciting things like that. And then you can then publish that onto your account and make this available as a private URL and turn that into a QR code. So that's exactly what he did there and then that evening on his sofa. And then I wrote about it in an article in The Guardian in November of 2012. And here's the video right now. You can almost hear that he did it about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And this is to describe Susitsi in French, live from his sofa in Ipswich. Here we go.
Okay, here's the deal. You've got 4 words to say with this. You've got so, you've got set, you've got set, and you've got say. And you use the word so in front of nouns that are masculine. You use the word set also in front of words that are masculine, but at the start of the vowel. Use the word say for masculine and feminine, but as long as they're plural, and you use set for words that are feminine. Simple as that.
Simple as that. Okay, you'll all be doing this tomorrow. So the point I'm trying to make there is that by creating the screencast, he was able to augment the normal experience that you'd have of just sort of simply explaining he was able to create the screencast, which meant that the children could access that out of school time whenever they want, 24/7, to encourage independent learning. And as well as in relation to the salmon model, that he was able to augment the learning. It wasn't just a question of substitution, whereby he was just using the technology to achieve the same outcome. He was able to augment the experience by the fact he was using Show Me. You could do it in other ways, but that was the way that he did it. And that was all born out of the discussion via Twitter. So we took a good idea and turned it into, in my opinion, a better idea. Likewise, I've been talking a lot about audio QR codes on Twitter as part of the MFL Twitterati. In fact, I've written an article here for an American website in August of last year, which you might want to have a look at, different ideas on the use of QR codes in education. And Jane Johnson, who's the head of languages in a school in the Midlands, took some of the ideas in there and used Crokit, which is a website for, or an app, should I say, for publishing short audio recordings of 30 seconds. So she was using it for promoting speaking about, in this context, sports. She made a classroom display with the QR codes next to the different images so that people could then come along, scan the QR code and then listen to the Year 7s speaking, which I just think was a really lovely idea. So it's all about sharing ideas through Twitter, and then people taking those ideas and putting them in their own context and putting their own spin on them, which is what it's all about. Now, another nice idea using a Mac program called iBooks Author. This is from José Ricardo, who is, used to be the head of languages at Nottingham High School. Who has a website called Box of Tricks, boxoftricks.net, which is really well worth having a look at if you're interested in finding out about good secondary school practice and the use of technology. He's now down in Surbiton, and he's an assistant head teacher, and he used iBooks Author to create an ebook to help his sixth form at the time when he was still at Nottingham, and he's made that available. Well, you can see the blog post about using the app iBooks Author, and on the right hand side there is just a guide about how to use that particular software if you're not au fait with it. Okay, carry on. Right. Okay. I know we're not supposed to use the term flipping, but I'm going to use it anyway because I know what it means. So, flipping the MFL classroom. This is something which I think is very, very exciting at the moment. Well, it's exciting, but at the same time, I think it's old wine in new bottles. Those people that were doing podcasting and video casting back in 2006, 2007, or what have you, then in lots of ways it's the same sort of idea. It's just become very au fait at the moment in relation to flipping the classroom. But what I'm particularly interested in this context is the way that language teachers who are part of the MFL Twitterati, as well as other teachers from around the world, are getting together and sharing good practice. They don't really know what they're doing necessarily, but they're trying things out, they're experimenting with it, which is what it's all about, and they're sharing their practice via Twitter as well as other places. So one of the main drivers at the moment are a school in Hampshire, Wilden School, and they have three very, very enthusiastic language teachers there who are trying to do as much flipping as possible and experimenting with that. They've actually created their blog here, Flipping the Learning in MFL, which is available here, and it's really, really well worth having a look at. There are other people as well, such as there's Aurélie Charles, who is here. Aurélie Charles is a French teacher from Longfield Academy. You've then got Samantha Broom, who's written a blog post here about flipping, and you've also got Farid Sharadine, who is from Northampton, that's right. So I essentially asked people to share good practice about flipping the classroom in languages, and they tweeted lots of stuff together, and I was able to put this slide together giving you some of the best practice at the moment in secondary schools in flipping the classroom. Now, something else that the teachers from Wilden have been doing is a Google Hangout. They've done quite a few so far, as well as sharing their practice via their YouTube web channel as well, which has got some examples of different videos that they've created using things such as VideoScribe HD, Powtoon, Explain Everything, etc. And this is Kristen Pontarelli, who is a language teacher from the States, who was talking about her experience of flipping. And also here, very small, is a lady called Heather Witten, who I actually met, luckily enough, in Florida in November, who's one of the first language teachers at a secondary level who's been flipping, and she's been sharing lots and lots of stuff with people from the UK, and all of this has been made possible through our connections via Twitter and the MFL Twitterati, which I just think is just wonderful. If you're interested in publishing content to a real audience on a YouTube channel, then I would suggest that's a good idea. This is again Kelda Richards, I mentioned already. So she's got a YouTube channel called Iska Languages, and you can find out examples of how she's been publishing work that the children have been doing from the iPads that they've got. These are examples using the app called Morpho, which is quite good for promoting speaking in the languages classroom. So again, you can see the examples, evidence of the speaking work they've been doing. You can see examples of that there. Another screencasting app. This one is not Show Me. This one is a website called, an app called ScreenChomp. And this again is Laura Knight, who I mentioned already. She was doing some screencasting in French in relation to, as you can see, different clothes and that sort of topic. And the reason I'm talking about this particular slide is to do with authentic audiences. So she published the work that they had done, the screencast that they'd done using ScreenChomp onto their online and onto her blog. And there was one person who was one of the creators of the app, ScreenChomp, who actually left a comment on the blog. So the power of publishing to a real audience. Obviously, the children were absolutely thrilled by that, by the fact that they were publishing to a real audience. And one of the creators of the app itself said what a good job they'd done. So I think this is how things have changed from about 2005 onwards with Web 2.0 and now particularly with mobile devices, the way that it's so easy now to publish work to a real audience. And lots of the MFL Twitter RT are doing that on a regular basis. Now, it was interesting we used Socrative earlier. This is again a blog post by Kelda Richards. For those people that don't know about Socrative, I'd really encourage you to have a look at it. It's a very popular app. I always talk about it when I'm doing different training things here, there and everywhere, and it's really great for formative assessment. And so there's a link there to her reflections. It's quite early days really, 2012 in April, so, but it's great that people are willing to share their ideas freely. Now, I'm going to sort of run through a few Web 2.0 tools very quickly. This is a good place to start if you're not interested, if you're interested in finding out more about Web2O tools that people are using in languages in different schools. So this one is 70 Tools in 70 Minutes by Silvia Tolosano, who's a US educator, currently living in Sao Paulo. And this is José Ricardo, I mentioned already, his Box of Tricks site. So for each letter of the alphabet, he's got different tools that he's recommending that have been tried and tested from around the world. Here's some of the ones which are my favourites, as well as favourites of other people. There'll be a short test at the end, so have a quick look at that. And here are some examples of people actually using this. This again is a Box of Tricks. So this is Doma Animate, so it's good for promoting writing through dialogue work, sort of like a flash-based thing, so it doesn't work on iPads. And here's another example in German on the right-hand side there. This one is an example of Animoto, which is a cool slideshow making tool. So this was created by Bertram Richter on the left-hand side. He's head of languages at Toll Hill Wood School. So he used it to celebrate a particular language event and incorporated images, video, audio, etc. all together. That was good. Amanda Salt, I've mentioned already, she's used that for promoting languages on her wiki through the use of Animoto. So that's again, you've got the links to the bottom here. This is Vogue. For those people that don't know, Vogue has been around for quite a long time now, since 2007. So this is speaking work from a school in Yorkshire, Thirsk School. Some Vokies with Year 7. And again, José Ricardo has written a blog post talking about 3 different lesson ideas of incorporating Voki into the classroom at the time. That's quite old again, but again it shows how people have been doing this for quite a long time now. Toon-Do, good for cartoons again, for promoting creative writing. This is from Susie Buell, who is now the PGC lecturer up at York University for Languages, but at the time she was, when she was teaching in All Saints Language College in York, that's when she did that work there, which is good. This is a Storybird for creating interesting storybooks, again for creative writing. This is Sarah Garney, who's head of languages in a school called Chiltern Edge near Reading. Again, all of this material has all been shared via Twitter. This is an infographic from Wes Fryer, an A-list educator from the US, and I think a lot of this relates very, very well to language learning. So the question is, what do you want to do? What do you want to create today? So I would particularly focus on that in relation to getting the children to access higher order thinking skills, according to Bloom's taxonomy. All of these ideas work very well in languages, so things like interactive writing, creating e-books, podcasting, photo stories, etc. And so I would encourage you to, if you're not doing that already, to think about how you're using technology to create content. That seems to, not to say that's the only way of using technology, but I think that's particularly important. Digital storytelling and creation of multimedia are so easy nowadays. And again, these are 2 presentations from Silvia Tolosano about the use of iPads to enhance teaching and learning. Now you may feel, I realise I've gone quite quickly, you may be feeling a little bit overwhelmed by some of the content I've shared today, but don't worry, that's completely normal according to the Telegraph. Now there was some research done by Cambridge University quite recently, 2011, saying that apparently 1 in 3 from the UK feel overwhelmed by technology. Okay, so if you're feeling like that, that's completely normal. Here are some of the findings, which I think are interesting. So, as you can see here, Britain's overwhelmingly viewed new technology, such as mobile phones and social networks, as a positive thing. I don't know if those are really new anymore now, but anyway. 38% of 10 to 14-year-olds felt that too much of it could be upsetting, so they were probably tweeting each other or texting each other, telling each other how upset they were. 34% of 25 to 34-year-olds reported feeling similarly, so it's interesting. Now this is really good. It's suggesting that even though people value using digital communication, they also really, really value more so the face-to-face meetups, which is something I pointed out earlier on, which I think it's great that the MFL Twitterati share ideas on a daily basis, but it's also wonderful when we meet up, such as the ICT Languages Conference that lots of us are going to be involved in a couple of weeks' time. And then likewise, 65% of adults said they preferred communicating in person. The same was also true for 64% of children. So we mustn't forget the power of the face-to-face as well as the virtual. And just to finish off with, this is my third slide from the end. It's supposed to be a bit comic, but it makes a serious point at the same time. So we know that young people today, those people that have young children, probably know that they're much better. Their children are probably much better on the iPad than they are, and they're doing various things at the age of 2 or 3 that they couldn't have done at their age. So we know that young people have expectations, high expectations of being able to use technology in the classroom, that we don't want them to be powering down, to quote a Guardian article a few years ago. We want them to be able to use technology, not to use it all the time. I think a blended approach, that's the word I wanted to use. Anyway, a blended approach is the best way. In other words, using a traditional methodology as well as technology to reach a certain outcome. The right tool for the right job is the key, not using ICT for the sake of it, and trying things out, experimenting, and then sharing your outcomes with the MFL Twitterati. And if you'd like to download this presentation, it's a 30 megabyte PDF file. You can either write down the URL, feel free to take a picture of that, of the QR code, or scan it straight away with an app like iNigma, or I use the tinyurl.com website to make a shortened version, because it links to my Dropbox account, and feel free to download that and have a look at that, and send me an email if you'd like to, or tweet me, or whatever you'd like to do to get in touch. I realise I've gone slightly over, but I've said everything I wanted to say, and I'm sure you've got different questions. And thank you for listening.